Hi, everyone. Megan here from Romance by the Book with the lovely Marielle.
Hello.
And today we have our special guest, November's Book of the Month author, Adriana Anders. We read her romantic suspense novel, Uncharted, which was so much fun. Hi, thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
All the way
I'm
from
so glad you
France?
guys. Yes.
That means it's the morning here, but you are winding down, I bet.
Yes, I should have brought a glass of wine with me, and I didn't think about it. It's the end of the day. It's not quite 5 o'clock, but almost.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, Megan and I loved Whiteout.
Love.
And I think I read Written Under His Skin, something like that. I can't remember titles. Before that, because Sophie Jordan had been like, read this somewhere online, and I was like, I shall. So I was gonna ask you, since you write and you have like award-winning contemporaries, and they're steamy and wonderful, what made you decide to also write romantic suspense?
I read a lot of romantic suspense, or I did. I actually, for a long time, I stopped reading romance. So when I was between like my 20s and early 30s, I didn't read a whole lot of romance. I read a lot of thrillers, a lot of mysteries, a lot of Elizabeth George and stuff like that. But I really love the Jack Reacher books. And I've always been a huge fan of Robert B. Parker's books. I mean, there are a few different series of books that I got really into. And then when I was writing Under Her Skin and that series, there were a lot of suspense elements in the series. So that when I went back to my publisher and we started talking about another series, she was actually the one to suggest something a little bit more suspenseful. I think I wanted to write like a die-hard 24 hours kind of like really intense series. And the third book that I proposed took place in Antarctica. And she sort of talked me off that ledge. and then we made our way to Whiteout. So this series sort of focused around Whiteout initially. Yeah.
Very cool.
What's the biggest difference between writing the contemporaries that are like less suspense versus more
stress? Lots and lots of stress. It's funny. I would say there's no difference in some ways. I was going to say research, but that's not true. I did as much research for the Under Her Skin and the Blank Canvas series as I did for this one. It was just a different kind of research. I spent a lot of time in that series talking to people. And for this series, I have interviewed people, but I also have just read a lot of stuff like about Antarctica and so on. I think pacing. For anybody who's a writer, it's, I'm one of those writers who just does things sort of instinctively and then tries to fix it and fix the mess I've made. And my editor definitely had to sort of help me work on pacing. I think I've learned a lot, but I would say that was the biggest thing, just figuring out how to keep people on the edge of their seat. And, it's not that easy. We think, this is going to be, it's not just about the situation. It's about the pacing. It's also about little things like the chapter headings in Whiteout, letting people know that they're about to run out of food and things like that are definitely challenges that, came up in suspense that I didn't have to worry about in contemporary.
Yeah.
I think you meant the challenge. I mean, for me anyway. Even when they were doing the even as the romance was developing for me, it was kind of fun to see in their head where they're like, mortal danger, probably not a good time to make out under the stars, but
we can't help it.
It was kind of fun.
Relief kissing leading to danger banging, of course.
Well, it's kind of my favorite thing. I love people who are so into each other that nothing will stop them. I mean, to me, that is just, one of those, they will be in a dark elevator a dark tent, a sleeping bag, stuck someplace, and it's just too stronger than that.
Hypothermic out in the open.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Exactly.
So that kind of leads into one of the questions from our discussion group from Erica over on Instagram, and she wanted to know about how you familiarize yourself with such remote settings like Antarctica and Alaska. I know you just said you did a lot of reading, but I was curious what else was involved.
So unlike a lot of people, I think, who read romance, I'm not a big camper, and a lot of people are not big campers. However, I did grow up in a very outdoorsy family. In fact, one of my brothers is a outdoor mountaineer. He was a mountaineering guide on Mount Rainier. He's somebody who does ice climbing. He's guided mountain trips in Alaska on Denali. So I did have sort of source material on that front. And I also was lucky enough, a friend of mine knew somebody who had been a chef at the South Pole Station. And so I got to talk to this guy and to his wife, who had also worked at the station with him. And it was fascinating. I mean, I didn't talk to them until I'd written the book, but it definitely helped me go in and layer in some detail that you just can't even find online. It was really, it also sort of makes things come to life in that way. But yeah, I mean, it is fiction. It is fiction. And I've had people comment on the details being wrong. And I'm a cheater because I created my own South Pole Station, because I knew that I couldn't make my story work with the way that there's the current station, which has been rebuilt. I couldn't make my story work there. And so I created my own station. So yeah, I like to just sort of cheat a little bit, but I also added a mountain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So it was a great, I would, given the opportunity, I would, in a heartbeat, I would go to Antarctica at this point.
Wow.
I was hoping you were going to tell us that you went.
I wish. No, I would love to.
Maybe for the movie.
Save it for the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would make a great movie. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I would love to. I mean, there's a lot of source material online too. You see these guys crossing Antarctica, pulling a sled, and they are doing it by choice. They choose to do that. So,
I would not. Especially if there's a chance my sled is going to fall into
a crevasse.
Like, leave me with nothing. Anyway.
No, thank you. No.
I was like, this seems like a lot of danger.
A lot.
And cold. Even though I actually kind of like chilliness, but not if it's gonna like
not that cold.
Yeah, not hypothermia.
Yeah.
Not cold to death.
The biting cold. I mean, the cold, that was another thing I did, is I sort of cheated timing a little bit because I needed the Alaska book to work as well. So there was kind of a little shifting things back and forward. It gets so cold so fast, especially at the South Pole. And the difference between McMurdo and the South Pole is apparently pretty vast. Oh. And then the Russian station that I made up as well was based on a Russian station that exists, but it's not exactly that station because I needed to shift it. I needed mountains, a little artistic license.
It works for me.
Same.
For sure. I had a bit of a question about competence porn and how Uncharted really, I mean, I think that both Whiteout and Uncharted have some of that, but in this, Leo's like adoration of Elias when she starts opening his packs and it's like, you have socks and a foot warmer and all the things we need are in here, made me so happy. And I was wondering, is that a thing that you enjoy reading, or is it a thing that was particular to like these circumstances that like you know, if you could die, having someone who thought through all the possibilities is, you know,
Yeah.
a stellar.
Well, I think there are a couple different things going on. One is that Leo, from the beginning, from Deep Blue, Leo has been the most, to me, she is the most competent member of that team. She is like smart, she is interesting, and she can do anything. I mean, she can fly all these. Yes, she's absolutely fearless. And I love this character so much. And when I started writing this book, I realized, well, first of all, what would she like in a man? What would appeal to her? She would not particularly like somebody who's a total ding dong. She wouldn't like somebody who gets lost. And she grew up with parents who were artists, you know, who were musicians. So she wouldn't necessarily want that because it's not what she was drawn to. So that was a big part of it. Also, I really do not like books where people, I mean, it's one thing to not have a skill and to be stuck in a situation, which I think is what happens to Angel in Whiteout.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing to have skills. I mean, to be in a situation where you should have skills and not have them. And that is something that drives me absolutely up the wall when I'm reading books, especially romance, I guess. Maybe I'm more judgmental with romance for some strange reason that I need to think about later. But I cannot stand it when people, when the conflict, especially in a book, it comes up because people don't know how to do a thing that they should really know how to do. And the hero in Uncharted shouldn't, you know, he should know all of that. He has experienced it and lived it and bathed in it for so long that this is what he does. It's who he is. But I think all of my heroes are extremely competent. And I guess I might be kind of into it.
It's just like I'm not attracted to incompetence. So
definitely not. I mean, I can't imagine anybody who is per se, but definitely
but there's some people who like love it. What is that? What is
go
it
hand
called?
in hand.
A himbo? Is that what that's
Yeah.
called? Like there's some people who really like pretty,
like a golden
not
retriever
very,
in human form.
yeah. So,
But even they must be good at something, you know,
Yeah.
there's something they're good at. Making the
Yeah.
good cup of coffee, or yeah, there's something.
it's true.
Yeah.
So you love them for their competence, even if it's not their like major personality.
Right. I mean, I do think, you know, if you take the hero of Uncharted and you put him in an entirely different situation, he might not be the right
He's
person.
very bad with like figuring out how to be around people.
Right.
Like I think for sure he seems like he doesn't know like when he should say things and like what's important as far as like,
which I mean makes total sense after 10 years of literally being by yourself.
Yeah.
And eventually you get a dog just so you have somebody to talk to. Like that would be, yeah, it would be really hard to fall back into, you know,
Yeah.
feeling normal, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that might, I definitely have a type. When I write heroes, I have a type. I need to try and branch out maybe at some point, but every time I start a book, what was the book? I was writing In His Hands, which was book 3 of the Blank Canvas series. And the main character is this winemaker, but really, I couldn't get him. He was this French guy, winemaker, and he was very sexy, but he never was right until I made him. He lost a couple fingers like in the past, and that just did it for me. Like he was a farmer. Like suddenly I made him a farmer, very good at what he did, but like super physical, a loner, a farmer, and then bam, that was one of my hit. Like suddenly he made sense to me.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I have a type.
Speaking of your type, we do have a question from Andrea, who is part of our DM group, and she said she would love to know. I'll just read it to you because otherwise I'm going to change all the pronouns weirdly. She said, I would love to know what her writing process is for developing the anti-hero characters in her books. I've read both Under Her Skin and Uncharted, and I love the unconventional character / redemption arcs. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, my process, so I very much admire people who are plotters, who plot their books out, people who know what they're going to do before they do it. I think that's wonderful. And they're so lucky because I go through the very painful process of knowing just like 5 things maybe about a book. Like I know kind of what's going to happen and I know kind of who my hero is, but it's like I have to suffer. And every book I write, I'm convinced that I'm not going to finish it. Every single book. And it's not until I find that little farmer thing, like, oh, he cut off a couple of fingers working too late one day in France for his grandfather when he was a kid, and this whole, and just, I don't know. I honestly, details, the thing with Ivan from Under Her Skin, as soon as I knew that he took in strays and the skunk, he has all these animals and the skunk he would feed the skunk too. And he had Rasta pony out in the backyard. And as soon as I knew that about him, it was just like, I knew who he was. I knew he had the anger, but I knew he was just such a good person. And I would say that that's actually the through line beyond anything is every single one of my heroes. Like, I don't know if I could write an anti-hero because I don't know that I would be able to. I just want them all to have a heart of gold. So even when I do write a bad guy, and I can't talk about it, but when I do write a bad guy who, if I fall too much in love with him and he ends up being super competent and stuff, it's hard for me to like make him, like, I just want him to be a heart of gold kind of.
Well, we are very giddy right now.
Because that sort of leads to my question about Ash and how in this book he's sort of the villain, but you kind of get the feeling that maybe you don't have the whole story and that you're definitely going to see him again, and he is surely competent. So
yes, I love Ash. I loved him from day one, and I wrote him very evil at the beginning, and he was evil, but also like I could not stop loving him, and I couldn't stop making him. We will see Ash again. I'm just going to say that.
The number of times he wanted to get rid of his whole team was hilarious.
Every time he wanted to be alone, he's always like, God, why am I not alone?
That's a through line too, the loner. I mean, the loner thing is just, yeah. But Ash was it took many, many versions of the book for him to come out the way he did. The first version that I don't even know if I ended up writing him this way, but he was just kind of in my head this way. He was just an extremely like evil, but I didn't hate him. And like, I wanted him to do good things. Like I wanted him to continue. I wanted to see him again. And I think it took 3 or 4 versions.
Virgins were sacrificed, so Ash could be his now.
Sacrifices to Ash. Yep. Yes. So the process was long and arduous with Ash. He changed the most from my roughest draft to what ended up in the book. And I'm so glad, because what we wind up with is definitely who I wanted from the start. I love him. And now I feel like he needs his own book, but I don't know. There are 4 books.
Just send it to us. Send it to us. Okay. I felt like he was the other side of the coin from Elias. Like, he's his golden glimmer is like way deep, but he also seemed like he was kind of like not interested in following these people's rules and necessarily working towards their end. Like, he had his own agenda, which was really cool to read. Also, I'm happy that he and Bo found each other too.
Yeah, Bo I knew from the start. She was always going to be that way. She was always going to be just, the perfect sidekick, doing her own thing. There are a couple of Bo scenes that got not necessarily cut out, but she definitely had some scenes where she was in even graver danger, I think. But people got it was kind of upsetting to people. So I pulled back.
I would have been upset, but as long as she was okay in the end, I think I would have been fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't help that I have a dog named Bo, so I, of course,
Yeah.
That is amazing.
I'll pet my dog reading your book. She also does things her own way. Like, she'll do what I ask, but not necessarily the moment I ask for her to do it, or the way that I want it, you know.
That sounds like everyone in my family.
That's funny. I also had questions about Amka because I loved her from the very beginning. Since
so
she
great.
knocked on that door, I was like, I love her so much. And I wanted to know two things. Why did you decide to give her her own scenes? And then also, was she inspired by any real life old lady badasses?
I, for some reason, really like old ladies. I don't know what it is. I think it's like recluses. I have 3 books, I think. I think Loving the Mountain Man has an old lady who doesn't get enough airtime. I don't know if it's my grandmother, who was a nightmare and also just one of the most amazing people I've ever known. She was amazing. I just love the old ladies. I don't know what it is. When I first sent the book to my first editor at Source Books, she wanted me to cut some of the Amka scenes, but they were a little long and Amka wasn't quite so straightforward, I think. So I think we had this sort of back and forth with her. She was like, I'm going to kick ass, she's definitely kick-ass old lady. She was just, I think maybe we refined those scenes a little bit. From the beginning, I knew I had written an entirely different beginning for that book, totally different. On the water, I mean, just completely different, but it was still Amka, still showing up. She was carrying, she was packing a gun. She shows up on an ATV. She's always been there. She's been part of, she's somebody who belongs there, I guess. It's been her home forever. And yeah, I always loved that character. But I do love the old ladies. It's funny because I don't really write so many old men, but I like the old ladies. Huh,
I mean, when she brought those cookies and then was like, haha, I'm actually here too. I was like, oh.
Well, awesome. People underestimate,
It's true.
And she's hardened by the climate. She's hardened by life there. And,
Yeah, but I love that she also had arthritis and was like, damn, I should have got that hearing aid after all. I didn't, there were so many moments where I was like, oh.
Yeah, she's so great. Oh my gosh,
I got more mail about Amka and Bo than any other characters in that book. So I guess, funny.
We love the other characters too, for sure. Yes. Leo being Leontine made me happy because I do like Leontine Price too. So, but I also have a soft spot for pups and old ladies. So you had my heart.
Yes.
I mean, they're we worry about them, so I understand the texts and the emails and stuff.
And I guess my other question would be, do we know yet what book 3 is going to be, the mine or the lab?
Okay, so I do know it's not coming right away. I hope it will come at some point next year, but I'm not entirely sure. Book 3 is Ants, and it is, I've told people this and they get very scared, but book 3 is almost entirely underground and almost entirely in the dark. So it is, I don't know if I can pull it off. It's a challenge, but it's the kind of challenge I wanted to, I'm very, very excited about it. It will probably be a bit shorter than the other 2, but I don't know. Yeah, book 3, I don't know the name yet. I mean, Blackout has been suggested, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I think it will be in the dark. almost as
Caved in.
So fascinated. A totally different set of environmental factors like working against them than what we've had in the first two books. So that's gonna be really fun.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
excited
And then
for that.
maybe somebody who, you know, is a little claustrophobic too. So
Oh, I can relate to that.
too.
I don't think I'm claustrophobic, and actually I kind of like the dark, but I get migraines, so sometimes like darkness is my friend. But my mom does not like a tunnel, like at all. So I know when I was a kid, we used to drive from Toronto to Myrtle Beach, and there was part of it where you would have to go under, like through tunnels under these mountains. And as we were driving through, my mom would be like, ah, and she was driving. She would be like, ah, where's the light? Where's the light? Where's the light? And so when you said a little claustrophobic, that's what I think, is someone that's like stuck there and they're like, okay, gotta get out. She's like, gotta keep going. It's the only way.
Yeah, there's stuff happens in the dark. I think what fascinates me, I mean, these fears that we have, right? They're all surmountable. And I can't remember what I was watching, some documentary. I think it was about somebody in the dark. And I think that's what sort of set this off for me. But somebody just talking about this just absolute fear. And at some point, you either face your fear or you die. And so I think that's kind of what this book is going to be, but it's going to be together, you know. And Ants is one of those characters who's just extremely, in some ways, likable and in some ways unlikable. So he's definitely going to have his work cut out for him in making the heroine want him. So yeah, like him even a little bit.
Oh, I'm excited. I love I've never seen you, but I'm in love with you trope. I'm not gonna lie. One of my favorites is Hearts in Darkness by Laura Kay.
That is such a good book.
Stuck in an elevator, and it's so great. I love every second of it. So yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. I also feel like we rely so much on our sense of sight, I think, and like the fact, like seeing something, at least to me, it like feels like, okay, now that I've seen it, I know what it is. So when you're deprived of that, I haven't been, I don't think, in a situation where I'm like stuck in the dark and there's no source of light available, that I could see where that would make you a little uncomfortable.
It's a little squirrely.
Yeah. No way out.
Especially if you can hear things. Like,
and things
if I hear skittering and it's dark, I'm gonna be.
I should be taking notes.
Yeah. So we have questions that we always ask our authors. And mine is, what is your favorite trope to read?
I mean, well, I was going to say forced proximity. Actually, forced proximity, definitely. But also fated mates, fated relationship. That to me just gets me every time. Aww. Every time.
Yes, I love it.
It makes me want to write a paranormal. The erotic book that I'm currently writing, which I keep calling it an erotic romance because the name is erotic. The cover is going to be, you know, pretty dirty. But at 30,000 words, nothing has happened yet. So I just keep thinking, what? But
it's a slow burn erotic.
It is a slow burn erotic. I'm not sure erotic readers love that, but whatever. Pink Camp is, there's definitely a faded quality to this book. I think more than any of the other books that I've written. So I'm excited about that. Okay. I really need a little more of that, I think.
I like that feeling of like, you know, we would have found each other no matter what. No matter like what. This is a thing, like, yeah, I like that too. My question is a little bit about your writing. If we were a fly on the wall and we caught you in the middle of your writing process, I guess, what would we see?
Oh, we are not. So I say we because I'm talking about me, my husband, my children. there's not much sort of regularity to our existence. I say this, although I think we've created enough structure. My husband's an artist and he's an extremely messy person. If I let him have a table for like 6 months, he will destroy it because he will never clean it. We are like just kind of all over the place. And I would equate my process to that. It is all over the place. And so last year when I was writing Daddy Crush, I was out on my back porch, just typing. Uncharted, I would say most of the time I was just pulling my hair out, just in my office or in the living room or talking to my friends, trying to understand why I couldn't get the story out. So, or texting, there has definitely been a lot of angst. That book would probably be my most angst-ridden book. So you probably would come in and see me crying.
Oh,
Oh,
oh no.
At the very least, asking, what I was doing wrong. Asking one of my friends, calling Andy Christopher and saying, help me. And, I've got 2 or 3 friends who I always sort of harass, and I say, is this the worst thing you've ever read? And they say no, and then we move on. And so, yeah.
that sounds very stressful.
It's extremely stressful, yeah.
It does sound relatable, though, I have to say.
Yeah, there's been a lot of insecurity. I would say that kind of was actually the biggest thing between my romantic suspense and the other books. The suspense I was much more insecure about writing those books because I really wanted them. I mean, I've always wanted my books to be good, but I wanted them to work. And it was a learning curve. I was learning a new genre. So
yeah. Well, and keeping that tension is, I feel like that would be hard, even though it was really fun to read and it made the reading go by really fast.
Yeah.
For me, I was like,
yeah, you're just like, gotta keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. My poor husband is like, should I order dinner? And I'm like, yes.
I love that.
Actually, it's funny. Marielle and I talked about this because usually when we're doing a book of the month, I just take my notes as I'm reading it the first time, just to avoid having to go back and do it again. And then I just go back over my notes and I'm like, oh, this part wasn't really important, and I can like cross some stuff out or whatever. And then, but like, I had never really tried doing it with a romantic suspense book before, and it was impossible. Like I got halfway through and I was like, this is driving me berserk. Like I cannot stop reading and take notes right now. Like it's making me feel crazy. So I had to just like put away the notes and finish like the last half of the book. And then I had to go back and like write the notes afterward. Cause I was like, it was making me feel crazy. I was like, I cannot stop reading just to take notes. It's too terrible. I have to keep going.
I think for me, I was like, what's important? Everything seems important. I couldn't. Yeah.
There's reading is immersive. I whenever I have to read a book for a friend, like beta read or to blurb or anything, I have a really hard time taking a step back. Yeah. I get very into books. I'm not a very good. I've never been very good at like parsing things and like figuring out what they mean. I'm just like, this is so good. Why?
I think the more I like a book, the more I am that way.
Yeah.
Like if I like it a whole lot, I'm just like, I loved it. I don't know why. It just
everything
give it to me again. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So this has been an interesting exercise for sure, because it's like read it once for enjoyment and then like, wait, what happened?
And to go back and start again. Yeah.
Thank you for giving us the experience, because it's really, it is really fun. And this past couple of years, it's been hard, at least for me, to find books that really like pulled me in. So it was really nice to have Whiteout and Uncharted be books where I was like, whoa, I'm going to read this until I'm done. So thanks.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you
all your angst.
Yes. All your angst was worthwhile.
If my pleasure was the goal, then
if angst, I think I've just come to recognize that angst is part of the process. So it is what it is. It is what it is. But I appreciate that. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. It's, getting these emails and stuff from readers and having people tell me that it really worked for them is just worthwhile. So makes it all worthwhile.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you will make it through the angst for book 3. We are very excited to read it.
Yes.
And thank you so much for being our Book of the Month author. We've had such a good time reading this one. And everybody watching, when you're seeing this, it will also be the day of Adriana's takeover of our page, which is always the last Saturday of the month. So we hope you enjoy that, and we'll see you all next month.
Yeah. And you've got coming up next is Kink Camp, you said?
Kink Camp, yes, which is going to be a series of,
Nice.
Emotional, little dirty books. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Contemporary.
Can't wait.
So look for those too.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Bye.
Adriana.
Thank you guys.